What if I told you the reason you're not getting results isn't lack of talent, luck, or even opportunity, but because you've never installed the core code that makes results automatic? Most people don't fail at goals because they're weak. They fail because they're wired wrong. They run on borrowed motivation instead of a personal operating system. They drift through routines without ever locking in the discipline habits that guarantee outcomes. Here's the truth Napoleon Hill uncovered. Results are not random. They are coded. And the code is discipline habits installed so deeply that success stops being optional and becomes inevitable. Why you struggle? Think about it. How many times have you started something strong and fizzled out? Promised yourself change, only to relapse into old patterns? Waited for the perfect moment to act and watched it never arrive? It's not because you're broken. It's because you never had the code. You've been operating without the core system. The 80% failure pattern. Here's what most people do. They chase intensity instead of consistency. They try to feel like it instead of making it non-negotiable. They dabble, drift, and excuse themselves. And every time they do, they reinforce the identity of failure. The 20% who install the code. But the minority, the 20% who succeed, do something radically different. They install the code. They hardwire discipline into their days. They treat habits not as experiments but as rules. And because of this, they guarantee results. Your new beginning. From today, you stop asking, why can't I stay consistent? You start declaring, I will install the code that guarantees results. This is the journey of this series, to break down the core code step by step, to show you how discipline and habits can become the system that transforms everything, your wealth, your work, your health, your entire life. Most people move through life like results are a lottery. They believe success happens if the stars align, if luck knocks on the door, if opportunities magically appear. But that belief is the very reason they fail. The truth? Results are programmable. They follow patterns. They follow codes. They follow cause and effect just as predictably as gravity pulls you down. The myth of randomness. The 80% cling to randomness because it feels comforting. If success is random, they're not responsible for failure. If results are luck, they don't have to take ownership. If outcomes are chance, excuses remain valid. This mindset shields their ego but sabotages their life. The reality of cause and effect. Napoleon Hill proved that success was never about chance. He studied thousands of millionaires and leaders and found a brutal truth. Those who installed the right disciplines got results. Those who didn't, failed. Hill wrote, "Success comes to those who become success conscious." In other words, results are created by coding success into your habits, into your thoughts, into your routines until it's no longer a possibility, but a certainty. Examples of programmable results. Think about it. You want wealth? If you discipline yourself to save, invest, and build skills daily, results are inevitable. You want health? If you discipline yourself to eat clean, train consistently, and rest properly, results are inevitable. You want influence? If you discipline yourself to speak, write, and create daily, results are inevitable. It's not magic. It's math. Small actions repeated with discipline compound into unstoppable results. Why most people resist this truth? There's a reason people prefer the randomness myth. It's easier. If success is luck, then failure isn't their fault. If outcomes are random, they don't have to face the shame of wasted days. But here's the brutal reality. Every time you treat success as random, you hand over your power. And every time you treat success as programmable, you reclaim it. The 20% difference. The successful minority live by this belief. If I install the right disciplines, I guarantee the right results. They don't wait. They don't hope. They code. And because they code, they win while others drift. Your next step. From now on, stop telling yourself results are random. Start seeing every outcome as a reflection of the code you've written into your daily life. If your results are weak, your code is weak. If your results are strong, your code is strong. It's that simple and it's that brutal. If you want guaranteed results, you must start with discipline. Discipline is the root, the engine, the foundation. Without it, every plan collapses. With it, every vision becomes inevitable. Most people think they fail because they didn't have enough talent, enough knowledge, or enough resources. But when you strip away the excuses, you always find the same missing piece: discipline. The willingness to act when you don't feel like it. The ability to hold the line when others let go. The daily choice to honor commitment over comfort. Why discipline is the first layer of the code. Results are not built in bursts. They are built in repetitions. One workout doesn't transform your body. One investment doesn't make you wealthy. One speech doesn't make you influential. Results appear when small actions are repeated daily, consistently, relentlessly. And only discipline can force that repetition. Motivation can start you. Excitement can ignite you. But only discipline sustains you. Napoleon Hill made this point clear. Self-discipline is the master key to riches. Notice he didn't say luck, intelligence, or timing. He said discipline. Because discipline ensures that habits form, and habits guarantee results. The 80% problem: comfort over commitment. The majority live with a reversed code. Instead of coding discipline, they code comfort. They say yes to sleep instead of yes to action. They say yes to distraction instead of yes to focus. They say yes to excuses instead of yes to persistence. Every choice reinforces an identity. And when you constantly choose comfort, you reinforce weakness. That's why they fail, not because they can't, but because they won't. The 20% advantage: discipline as identity. The successful minority operate with discipline as their core identity. For them, discipline is not a tool they sometimes use, it's who they are. They train even when tired. They study even when busy. They create even when uninspired. Why? Because they no longer negotiate with themselves. The code runs automatically. They don't ask, "Do I feel like it?" They declare, "I do it because it's what I do." That's the shift. From effort to identity. The discipline installation formula. Here's how you can install discipline as the first layer of your core code. 1. Define non-negotiables. Pick the few key actions that matter most. These are the disciplines you must execute daily no matter what. For example, write 500 words, train for 30 minutes, save a fixed amount of money. 2. Anchor them to purpose. Link every discipline to your larger vision. Don't just exercise. Remind yourself, I train because my health is the foundation of my wealth. Purpose fuels persistence. 3. Kill negotiation. Remove the question of whether you'll do it. Decide once, execute forever. The more you negotiate, the more excuses win. 4. Track relentlessly. Measure daily. Check marks, streaks, progress logs. Proof of discipline builds belief. 5. Reward execution, not feeling. Celebrate the fact you acted, not whether you felt motivated. Over time, your brain learns to associate pride with discipline, not with moods. Macro-micro discipline. At the macro level, discipline shapes your entire future. At the micro level, discipline is simply the next action taken without debate. When you zoom in, it looks small: get out of bed, pick up the pen, lift the weight, make the call. But when you zoom out, those micro acts stack into results so massive others call them miracles. Why discipline guarantees results? Think of discipline as the lock on the door of your future. Without it, anything can sneak in: laziness, distraction, procrastination. With it, only the results you choose are allowed entry. Discipline guarantees results because it guarantees consistency. And consistency is the multiplier most people lack. It's not the person who works hardest one day who wins, it's the person who shows up every day. Your shift today. From this moment forward, you stop worshiping motivation. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop making comfort your code. Instead, you install discipline as your core. You become the person who acts regardless of mood, regardless of pressure, regardless of circumstance. And when discipline becomes who you are, results stop being uncertain. They become guaranteed. If discipline is the root of guaranteed results, then habits are the branches that carry those results into every part of your life. Discipline initiates action, but habits automate action. Discipline forces you to show up, but habits make showing up effortless. Most people underestimate the power of habits. They think results come from single decisions, from dramatic acts of willpower, from big moves. But the truth is brutal. Your future is written in the small, repeated actions you perform without thinking. Why habits matter more than motivation? Motivation demands energy. Every time you rely on motivation, you drain your mental battery. But habits? Habits are automatic. They require no debate, no decision, no inspiration. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up and negotiate with yourself about whether to brush. You just do it. That's the power of habit. Now imagine if wealth building, health, or personal growth were as automatic as brushing your teeth. That's what Hill's core code is designed to install. Napoleon Hill captured it perfectly. Any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. Repetition carves grooves into your subconscious. The more often you perform an action, the deeper the groove becomes, until the action is no longer a choice, it's a default. The 80% problem, fragile habits. Most people live with weak or negative habits. They check their phone before they check their goals. They gossip before they create. They spend before they save. They react before they design. And because they underestimate how much small habits compound, they don't realize how much damage these harmless defaults create over years. One poor habit repeated daily is enough to destroy decades of potential. The 20% advantage, productive habits. The disciplined minority approach habits with ruthless intentionality. They engineer environments that trigger productive actions. They design rituals that align with their core vision. They repeat small wins until those wins become identity. They don't leave habits to chance, they install them deliberately. That's the difference between drifting and dominating. The habit installation formula. Here's how you can code habits into your system until results become automatic. 1. Choose keystone habits. Keystone habits are the few actions that trigger a cascade of other wins. For example, waking up early, journaling daily, or exercising first thing in the morning. These anchor your day. 2. Stack habits on existing routines. Link new habits to something you already do. For example, after pouring coffee, review your goals. After brushing your teeth, write one sentence in your journal. This leverages momentum. 3. Use triggers, not willpower. Set visible reminders. Place your book on your pillow so you read before bed. Put your gym shoes next to the bed so you train first thing. Make the environment do the work. 4. Remove negative triggers. Habits form by default if you let the wrong cues dominate. Remove junk food from the house, delete distracting apps, cut ties with circles that normalize excuses. 5. Track and celebrate. Every repetition matters. Record your streaks, celebrate your chains. This reinforces identity. I am the type of person who. Macro-micro habit power. At the macro level, habits create your destiny. At the micro level, they are simple repeated actions. 1 bite at a time changes your health. $1 at a time changes your wealth. 1 sentence at a time changes your influence. The compound effect works silently. Nothing seems to change at first. But over months and years, the difference between positive and negative habits is the difference between failure and fortune. The identity shift through habits. Habits are not just actions. They are identity votes. Each time you perform a habit, you reinforce the statement, this is who I am. Save money daily, I am a disciplined builder of wealth. Train daily, I am a person who values health and energy. Write daily, I am a creator, not a consumer. When enough votes are cast, the election is over. Your subconscious no longer questions who you are. You become the embodiment of your habits. Why habits guarantee results? Here's the core truth: once discipline births habits, habits take over. You no longer need to force results, they arrive by default. Weak habits guarantee weak results. Strong habits guarantee strong results. This is why Hill emphasized coding habits into your subconscious. Because when the code is installed, excuses no longer matter. Motivation no longer matters. Even mood no longer matters. You act automatically. And that's why your results are automatic. Your next step. From this day forward, stop leaving habits to chance. Stop excusing negative patterns as harmless. Stop underestimating the power of small, repeated actions. Instead, install habits deliberately. Link them to purpose. Stack them daily. Protect them fiercely. Because discipline may start the engine, but habits keep it running. And once your habits align with your vision, results become not just possible, but guaranteed. Most people treat results like a mystery. They believe success arrives by accident, as if it were the reward of chance or luck. But the truth is this: results are predictable. They are not accidents. They are the inevitable outcome of discipline and habits aligned with purpose. When you understand this, life stops feeling like a gamble. You stop waiting for miracles. You stop wishing for breakthroughs. Instead, you start building results like a scientist codes an experiment. You put in the right inputs, you repeat the right process, and you trust the outcome to appear. Why people think results are random? The 80% cling to the illusion of randomness. They see someone succeed and call it luck. They see someone fail and call it bad fortune. They blame timing, the market, or circumstances. This mindset feels safe because it protects them from responsibility. If success is random, then their failures aren't their fault. If outcomes are luck, they never have to confront their lack of discipline. But this belief is the prison that keeps them average. The reality: discipline plus habits equals predictable outcomes. Napoleon Hill studied thousands of the most successful people and discovered something radical: their results were not accidents. Every one of them lived by codes of discipline. Every one of them built habits that aligned with their goals. The wealthy disciplined themselves to save, invest, and compound consistently. The healthy disciplined themselves to train, eat, and rest with precision. The influential disciplined themselves to write, speak, and serve relentlessly. The formula is always the same: discipline births habits, and habits guarantee results. Hill put it simply: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Belief alone is not enough, it must be reinforced by daily habits that make success automatic. Examples of predictable results. Think about this. If you save 10% of your income every month for 20 years, wealth is predictable. If you eat clean and train 4 times a week for a decade, health is predictable. If you create content every day for 5 years, influence is predictable. None of these require luck. They require discipline. They require habits. And because of this, the results are as predictable as sunrise. Why most people don't believe this? The majority don't believe in predictable success because they quit too early. They plant seeds and dig them up before they sprout. They start routines but abandon them at the first resistance. They never persist long enough for results to manifest. To them, success looks random because they only ever see the surface. They don't see the years of repetition behind the scenes. They don't see the habits coded into daily life. So they explain success away as luck, because acknowledging the truth would expose their lack of persistence. The 20% who trust the code. The disciplined minority understand the law of cause and effect. They know that if they show up daily, if they align habits with purpose, results will come, not instantly, but inevitably. They don't hope. They don't guess. They trust the system. And because of that trust, they can outlast everyone else. This is the real secret. Most people quit because they don't trust the process. Winners persist because they know results are guaranteed if the code is installed. The predictability formula. Here's the formula you must internalize. Discipline habits, consistency results. Discipline forces you to start. Habits make action automatic. Consistency stacks repetitions over time. Results emerge as the inevitable byproduct. It's not magic. It's mechanics. Macro-micro predictability. At the macro level, you want wealth, freedom, success. At the micro level, you only need to repeat the right disciplines daily. One decision at a time. One action at a time. One habit at a time. Stacked consistently, those micro choices guarantee the macro outcome. The breakthrough belief. Here's the belief shift you must install today. Success is not uncertain. It is inevitable if I run the code long enough. This destroys excuses. It silences procrastination. It removes fear. Because once you see success as inevitable, there is no reason to quit. Your next step. Stop calling success random. Stop waiting for miracles. Stop excusing failure as bad luck. Start treating results like math. Start trusting discipline as the equation. Start installing habits that guarantee the outcome. Because once you install this belief, you no longer chase results. You create them. And once you create them, they are predictable, repeatable, and inevitable. Everyone dreams of the big breakthrough. The big win, the massive result, the dramatic transformation. That's what people fantasize about the moment success finally arrives in a flood. But here's the truth, the big wins never come without small wins. In fact, the big wins are nothing more than the accumulation of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of small victories stacked together. Most people fail because they chase the dramatic instead of protecting the daily. They wait for life-changing moments while neglecting the life-shaping habits. The myth of big leaps. The 80% want the shortcut. They want to go from nothing to millionaire, from unfit to athlete, from invisible to famous overnight. They fall for quick fixes, for hacks, for secrets that promise speed without sacrifice. They jump on extreme diets and quit in weeks. They launch businesses expecting instant riches and abandon them when profits don't appear. They start massive routines but can't sustain them. And every time they fail, they reinforce the belief that success isn't possible for them. But the problem isn't possibility, it's approach. The power of small wins. The 20% who succeed understand the opposite truth. Small wins are the only path to big wins. Writing 1 page a day creates books. Saving a small amount monthly creates wealth. Training a few times a week builds lifelong health. Each small win is a brick. And when you stack enough bricks, you build the wall. When you stack enough walls, you build the castle. Discipline ensures you place a brick daily. Habits ensure the brick is placed without negotiation. Over time, the structure rises, predictable, inevitable, unshakable. Napoleon Hill's insight. Hill observed this principle in the lives of successful people. None of them achieved greatness in one leap. All of them achieved it through disciplined repetition. He wrote, "Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out. It's the daily, the ordinary, the seemingly insignificant actions that compound into extraordinary outcomes." Why small wins matter more. Small wins do more than just build progress, they build identity. Each time you execute a habit, no matter how small, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Save $1, I am a saver. Write 1 sentence, I am a writer. Train 10 minutes, I am an athlete. These votes accumulate until your subconscious no longer doubts who you are. And once identity shifts, results accelerate. The compound effect of momentum. Here's the hidden power. Small wins don't just add up, they multiply. 1 day of training doesn't change your body. But 100 days changes your confidence. 1 day of saving doesn't change your wealth. But 1,000 days changes your freedom. One day of writing doesn't change your influence. But 10,000 words can change your career. Momentum compounds invisibly at first, then visibly, then irresistibly. People will call it overnight success, but you'll know it was built brick by brick. The 80% sabotage pattern. The majority sabotage themselves because they dismiss small wins. They call one workout not enough. They call one saved dollar too small. They call one page written pointless. And because they don't honor the small, they never reach the big. Their code collapses before it's installed. The 20% protect the chain. The successful minority treat each small win as sacred. They understand that the discipline isn't about size, it's about consistency. They protect their streaks. They celebrate every completed action. They know that every checkmark, every repetition, every tiny victory is a deposit into the bank of inevitable success. The Small Wins Installation Protocol. Here's how you make small wins the foundation of your core code. 1. Lower the barrier. Choose habits so simple you cannot fail. Instead of "I will run 5 miles," say, "I will put on my running shoes and walk 5 minutes." Simplicity ensures repetition. 2. Track relentlessly. Mark every completion. Streaks build emotional power. Break the chain as rarely as possible. 3. Raise the ceiling, never the floor. Start small, then let habits expand naturally. One sentence becomes a page. One push-up becomes 50. But the minimum remains unbreakable. 4. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Every completed action is proof of discipline. Celebrate consistency more than intensity. Macro, micro, macro. At the macro level, you want guaranteed results. At the micro level, you only need today's small win. And when enough days stack, the macro outcome is unavoidable. Discipline begins the chain. Habits repeat the chain. Small wins extend the chain. And eventually, the chain becomes unbreakable. Your next step. Stop underestimating small wins. Stop waiting for big leaps. Stop despising the day of small beginnings. Instead, honor every small victory. Track it. Protect it. Celebrate it. Because every time you complete a small win, you strengthen the code. And once the code is strong, results stop being hopes, they become guarantees. The world worships speed. Everywhere you look, people are obsessed with how fast something can happen. How quickly can I get rich? How fast can I get fit? How soon until I'm successful? But the brutal truth is this: speed without endurance is useless. You don't win because you start faster, you win because you keep going longer. The illusion of speed. The 80% fall into the trap of urgency. They sprint into new routines with unsustainable energy. They expect transformation in weeks instead of years. They collapse the moment the results don't match their expectations. They mistake quick progress for lasting success. And when that quick progress slows, as it always does, they quit. That's why their results vanish as quickly as they appear. Because they were built on speed, not persistence. Why endurance wins. The 20% who succeed understand a different truth. Discipline is not about how fast you move, but about how long you last. Think of the marathon. Anyone can sprint the first 100 meters. But who wins the race? The one who maintains rhythm mile after mile. The same is true in life. You don't build wealth, health, or mastery in a week. You build it over years of persistence. And the engine that carries you through is endurance. Napoleon Hill captured it clearly. There is no substitute for persistence. The person who makes persistence his watchword discovers that old man failure finally becomes tired and makes his departure. Persistence doesn't just outlast problems. It exhausts them. The compound power of persistence. Here's what persistence does that speed never can. It compounds habits. Repeated actions accumulate into unstoppable momentum. It silences resistance. The longer you persist, the weaker excuses become. It rewires identity. Every day you persist, you reinforce, I am the type of person who never quits. Speed excites. Persistence transforms. The 80% pattern, burnout. Most people crash because they sprint. They work out intensely for 2 weeks, then stop for months. They start saving aggressively for 1 month, then spend it all the next. They launch big projects, then abandon them once the novelty fades. Their rhythm is unstable. Their energy is mismanaged. And because they confuse intensity with persistence, they never cross the finish line. The 20% pattern, consistency over intensity. The disciplined minority operate differently. They prioritize consistency over speed. They would rather do 30 minutes daily for a year than 3 hours for a week. They would rather save a small amount for a decade than a big amount once. They would rather publish regularly than create in bursts. Their power comes not from how fast they move, but from how unshakably they endure. The endurance formula. Here's how you make persistence your engine. 1. Lower the floor. Set habits small enough to sustain daily. This ensures you never burn out. 2. Track the streak, not the speed. Celebrate how long you've stayed consistent, not how much you did at once. 3. Accept gradual progress. Stop expecting instant transformation. Embrace the slow build. The slower it comes, the stronger it lasts. 4. Build identity on endurance. Tell yourself daily, I persist. I outlast. I finish. Over time, this belief becomes unshakable. Macro-micro endurance. At the macro level, endurance ensures you finish the race of life. At the micro level, endurance is simply showing up today again. You don't have to run a marathon in one leap. You only have to take one step and then another, and then another. Over time, those steps compound into unstoppable progress. The breakthrough mindset. Stop asking, how fast can I get there? Start asking, how long can I sustain this? Because results don't go to the fastest starters. They go to the longest finishers. Your next step. From today, you stop chasing speed. You stop sprinting into burnout. You stop worshiping quick wins. Instead, you install persistence as your engine. You build rhythms you can sustain. You outlast obstacles, doubts, and delays. Because when speed fails, persistence prevails. And when persistence prevails, results are no longer temporary, they are permanent, inevitable, and unshakable. Most people crumble when adversity strikes. They see resistance as a stop sign. They interpret obstacles as signals to quit. They assume difficulty means the dream wasn't meant for them. But here's the paradox: resistance is not your enemy, it's your training ground. The very struggles that most people run from are the exact weights that strengthen discipline and harden habits. If discipline is the root and habits are the branches, then resistance is the storm that deepens the roots and toughens the bark. The 80% response: collapse under pressure. Think about how the majority respond to adversity. One rejection convinces them to stop trying. One failure convinces them they're not cut out for success. One setback convinces them the plan doesn't work. They misinterpret resistance as a verdict instead of a test. They don't see that obstacles aren't proof of impossibility, they're proof of progress. This is why they stay stuck. They keep quitting in the very moments that could have made them stronger. The 20% response: convert resistance into strength. The successful minority respond differently. They treat resistance as proof they're on the right path. They understand that the presence of difficulty means they've stepped out of mediocrity and into growth. Struggle becomes the gym where discipline is trained. Setbacks become lessons that sharpen strategy. Adversity becomes evidence that they're no longer drifting. For them, resistance is not a reason to stop, it's a reason to persist harder. Napoleon Hill's wisdom. Hill understood this better than anyone. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Most people never harvest that seed because they never endure long enough to see it grow. But the 20% plant adversity deep into their code and water it with persistence until it blooms into strength. Why resistance is essential. Resistance forces growth in 3 ways. 1. It exposes weakness. Obstacles reveal the cracks in your discipline. Every excuse that surfaces under stress is a weakness waiting to be strengthened. 2. It builds endurance. The more resistance you face, the stronger your persistence becomes. Just as muscles grow under tension, your character grows under adversity. 3. It reinforces identity. Each time you endure resistance, you reinforce, I am someone who overcomes. I don't break. I build. The Resistance Conversion Protocol. Here's how you turn adversity into fuel. Step 1. Reframe instantly. When resistance appears, don't ask why me? Ask, how is this training me? This shifts adversity from punishment to preparation. Step 2. Shrink the battle. Don't obsess over the mountain. Focus on the next foothold. Overcoming resistance happens step by step. Step 3. Capture the lesson. Every setback carries wisdom. Write it down. Extract the lesson. Apply it. That's how adversity becomes leverage. Step 4. Track your victories. Every time you push through, record it. Build a catalog of resilience. Proof of past endurance fuels future persistence. Macro-micro power of resistance. At the macro level, adversity seasons are where greatness is forged. At the micro level, resistance is nothing more than one difficult action taken again and again. When you zoom in, it's uncomfortable. When you zoom out, it's transformative. The 80% stay soft, the 20% grow strong. The difference isn't the presence of adversity, everyone faces it. The difference is interpretation. The 80% see resistance as a reason to stop. The 20% see resistance as a reason to continue. That's why the majority stay fragile and the minority become unstoppable. Your next step. From today forward, stop treating resistance as a curse. Stop collapsing at the first sign of pressure. Stop confusing obstacles with impossibility. Instead, declare, resistance is my training ground. Every obstacle is my rep, every setback is my strengthening. Because when you embrace adversity as part of the code, you transform resistance into resilience. And once resilience is yours, results are no longer fragile, they are fortified, inevitable, and permanent. You can force yourself to act with willpower for a while. You can push yourself through discipline in the short term. But if you want results that last decades, results that feel inevitable, you must go deeper. You must code discipline and habits into your subconscious mind until they run automatically, like breathing, like walking, like brushing your teeth. Most people never reach this level. They live in constant negotiation with themselves, battling over every action. Should I do it now? Do I feel like it today? Can I skip just this once? That inner debate drains energy, weakens persistence, and eventually leads to collapse. The 20% who succeed bypass the debate entirely. They reprogram their subconscious so that discipline and habits are no longer choices, they're defaults. Why the subconscious matters. Your subconscious mind is the autopilot of your life. It governs 95% of your actions without you even realizing it. Think about it. When you drive, you don't consciously think about every turn of the wheel. When you type, you don't spell out each letter deliberately. Those actions have been programmed. Now imagine if your subconscious was programmed with wealth-building, health-sustaining, success-producing habits. You wouldn't need motivation. You wouldn't need reminders. You would simply act, because your subconscious was already running the code. Napoleon Hill knew this truth well. He wrote, "The subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thoughts. It works with the material we feed it." That means you are programming yourself every day, whether you realize it or not. The only question is, are you feeding your subconscious discipline, or are you feeding it excuses? The 80% problem, negative programming. The majority don't realize they've programmed their subconscious with drift. They repeat negative self-talk until it becomes identity. They replay excuses until they sound like truth. They reinforce weakness by quitting again and again. Their subconscious accepts it all. It doesn't argue. It simply runs the code it's been given. That's why they feel stuck, because their mind is running outdated, destructive software. The 20% solution: intentional programming. The disciplined few deliberately rewrite their subconscious operating system. They know that thoughts, repeated with intensity, become beliefs. And beliefs, reinforced with action, become identity. They use autosuggestion, visualization, and repetition to plant discipline deep into the subconscious. They understand that once the subconscious accepts a belief, it will work tirelessly to make that belief reality. The Subconscious Installation Protocol. Here's how you program your subconscious with the core code. 1. Affirmation statements. Write down clear, positive, present tense declarations that encode discipline into your identity. Example: I am a person of relentless discipline. I complete my habits daily without excuse. Read them aloud morning and night with intensity. 2. Visualization rehearsals. See yourself executing your core habits in vivid detail. Imagine the actions, the feelings, the results. Visualization tricks the brain into believing the habit is already yours. 3. Emotional anchoring. Attach strong emotions to your affirmations and visualizations. The subconscious responds to feelings more than logic. Passion engraves the code deeper. 4. Repetition without break. Repeat daily. Repetition is the mother of programming. Skip once, and the code weakens. Persist, and the subconscious rewires permanently. Macro-micro programming. At the macro level, you're reshaping your entire identity. At the micro level, it's just words spoken, images imagined, actions repeated. The power lies in the consistency. Each repetition is a line of code. And with enough lines, the subconscious updates itself to match your vision. The identity shift. Once programmed, you no longer say, I need to be disciplined. You say, I am disciplined. You no longer say, I have to build habits. You say, my habits run me forward automatically. This is the turning point. Once the subconscious accepts the code, discipline is no longer a struggle, it's who you are. Napoleon Hill's final word. Hill wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief is not casual. It must be planted deep in the subconscious through repetition, autosuggestion, and action." Your next step. From today forward, stop letting your subconscious run on drift. Stop feeding it excuses. Stop replaying weakness until it becomes your identity. Instead, program discipline. Install habits. Repeat affirmations. Visualize results. Because once the subconscious accepts the code, your actions align effortlessly. And when actions align effortlessly, results are no longer something you fight for, they become something you live in. Discipline gets you started. Habits keep you moving. But if you want those habits to become unbreakable, you need one more force: evidence. Most people fail not because they never acted, but because they never tracked. They had no record of their victories, no proof of their progress, no data to convince their subconscious that change was real. Without evidence, their minds defaulted back to doubt. And doubt always destroys momentum. The 20% who succeed understand this. They turn discipline into data. They transform habits into feedback loops. They gather proof so powerful that excuses can no longer survive. Why feedback matters? Your brain is always looking for evidence. It constantly asks, am I really this person? Am I really making progress? If the answer isn't backed by proof, the brain reverts to old identity. That's why so many people relapse, they have no evidence to anchor the new self. Tracking provides that evidence. Every checkmark, every log, every streak becomes a receipt that you are who you say you are. Napoleon Hill put it this way: Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Belief requires evidence. Tracking provides it. The 80% problem, living blind. The majority never measure their progress. They try to be healthier but never log workouts. They try to save money but never record spending. They try to stay consistent but never track habits. Because they don't measure, they don't see progress. Because they don't see progress, they feel stuck. Because they feel stuck, they quit. This is the silent killer of momentum. The 20% solution, proof over feelings. The disciplined few live by evidence, not emotion. They track every workout, even the smallest one. They log every dollar saved, even the smallest amount. They record every habit completion, even the simplest one. And because they can see progress, they believe progress. And because they believe progress, they continue. It becomes a loop: action, evidence, belief, more action. The feedback loop in action. Here's how it works. You take disciplined action. For example, you write 1 page. You track the completion. You check off the box in your habit log. The log provides proof. You see the streak grow 1, 5, 10, 50 days. Proof builds belief. Your subconscious accepts, I am a writer. Belief drives more action. The loop strengthens itself. This is how habits stop being fragile and start being fortified. The tracking protocol. Here's how to install feedback into your core code. 1. Daily tracking. Use a journal, an app, or even a simple paper calendar. Mark every completed habit. Make the evidence visible. 2. Weekly reflection. Every week, review your data. Celebrate streaks. Identify gaps. Adjust systems. Reflection keeps habits honest. 3. Public proof. Share your progress with a trusted circle. Accountability multiplies the power of evidence. When others see your streaks, quitting costs more. 4. Celebrate data, not just feelings. Reward yourself for completion, not for feeling good. The brain must associate pride with execution, not with moods. Macro-micro evidence. At the macro level, tracking tells the story of transformation. It becomes a biography of your discipline. At the micro level, it's just one checkmark today. But enough checkmarks stack into undeniable proof. And undeniable proof rewires your identity faster than anything else. Why evidence guarantees results? Evidence kills excuses. When you have proof, you can't lie to yourself. I'm not making progress. Your streak log says otherwise. I'm not disciplined. Your completed checklist says otherwise. This isn't working. Your data proves it is. Excuses collapse when confronted with evidence. And once excuses collapse, persistence is inevitable. Your next step. Stop living blind. Stop guessing at progress. Stop depending on feelings to tell you whether you're succeeding. Instead, measure. Track. Record. Build a mountain of proof so large that your subconscious cannot deny your transformation. Because once you have evidence, your identity locks in. And when identity locks in, discipline and habits stop needing effort, they reinforce themselves. At that point, results are not just possible, they are guaranteed. Discipline alone can take you far. Habits can carry you further. But if you want discipline and habits to become inescapable, you must bring in a force greater than yourself: accountability. Napoleon Hill devoted an entire principle to this idea, the Mastermind Alliance, because he understood that no one ever achieves greatness in isolation. A single person can drift. A single person can excuse. But when surrounded by the right circle, your excuses lose oxygen, and your habits gain fuel. Why accountability matters. Your brain is clever. Alone, you can justify anything. I'll start tomorrow. It doesn't matter if I miss one day. No one will notice if I quit. And because no one is watching, you slip. That's why most people live in silent failure. They break promises in private where no one can hold them to account. Accountability changes everything. The moment others know your commitments, your discipline gains teeth. You're no longer fighting alone, you're fighting in the open. The 80% hide. The majority hide their goals. They promise themselves quietly, so no one sees when they break the promise. They work in secret, so failure has no social cost. They live in isolation, so quitting is easy. But what feels safe in the short term kills success in the long term. Privacy protects excuses. Silence shelters mediocrity. The 20% expose themselves. The disciplined few do the opposite. They declare their goals publicly. They surround themselves with people who demand proof. They raise the cost of quitting so high that persistence is the only option. For them, accountability is not a weakness, it's a weapon. They use the pressure of community as leverage against excuses. Napoleon Hill on the Mastermind. Hill wrote, "No two minds ever come together without, thereby, creating a third, invisible intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. That third mind is accountability. It's the force that pushes you when your willpower weakens. It's the pressure that keeps you in motion when comfort calls. It's the mirror that exposes your excuses before they destroy you." The Accountability Protocol. Here's how to weaponize accountability as part of your core code. 1. Choose builders, not bystanders. Your circle matters. Surround yourself with people who demand evidence, who reinforce your discipline, who refuse to let you drift. Avoid those who normalize weakness. 2. Declare your commitments publicly. Say it out loud. Share it with your mastermind group, your peers, your allies. The moment your goals are visible, the cost of failure rises. 3. Add consequences. Accountability without stakes is just talk. Create penalties for failure, financial, social, or reputational. Make excuses painful. 4. Celebrate victories together. Let your community witness your wins. Public recognition amplifies your identity and strengthens your commitment. The 80% versus the 20%. The 80% stay silent so they can quit silently. The 20% go public so they can't quit at all. That's the dividing line. That's why accountability is the multiplier of discipline. Macro-micro accountability. At the macro level, accountability creates culture. A culture where excellence is normal and excuses are rare. At the micro level, accountability is a single text from a partner, a check-in call, a visible log of your progress. Small nudges keep habits alive. Big communities keep discipline unbreakable. Your next step. Stop hiding. Stop promising only yourself. Stop protecting your excuses in silence. Instead, declare. Surround yourself with people who demand your best. Create consequences that make quitting unbearable. Build alliances so strong that your discipline is no longer just personal, it's collective. Because once accountability locks in, retreat disappears. And when retreat disappears, results are guaranteed. You are not just the product of your choices. You are the product of your environment. Most people don't fail because they lack discipline in their hearts. They fail because their surroundings are coded against them. Their environment constantly whispers drift, distraction, and delay. And because they never reprogram their space, their willpower is fighting a losing battle. If you want discipline and habits to become automatic, you must design your environment to enforce them. You must build a world that makes success the default and excuses the impossibility. The 80% environment, designed for drift. Think about the average person's environment. Their phones buzz with endless notifications. Their desks are cluttered with reminders of unfinished tasks. Their kitchens are stocked with junk food. Their bedrooms are filled with distractions that delay sleep. And then they wonder why they can't focus, why they can't stay disciplined, why their habits collapse. The truth is simple, their environment is designed for failure. The 20% environment, engineered for discipline. The disciplined minority live differently. They design their spaces with ruthless intentionality. They place their workout gear by the bed so training is automatic. They keep books visible and phones hidden so learning trumps scrolling. They set up workspaces with single-purpose clarity, nothing present except tools for execution. They remove every trigger of bad habits and replace them with triggers of discipline. They don't wait for willpower to win, they make willpower irrelevant. Napoleon Hill's principle of suggestion. Hill wrote, "The subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thought impulses. It works with the material we feed it. Your environment feeds your subconscious constantly. Clutter feeds confusion. Distraction feeds drift. Order feeds discipline. Purposeful design feeds persistence. What you see repeatedly, you become. What surrounds you, shapes you." The Environment Installation Protocol. Here's how to build a world that enforces the core code. 1. Make good habits frictionless. If you want to practice daily, place instruments or notebooks within arm's reach. If you want to exercise, keep your gear visible. Reduce the effort to start. 2. Make bad habits impossible. If you want to eat clean, remove junk food from your house. If you want to focus, delete distracting apps. Don't fight temptation, eliminate it. 3. Design single-purpose spaces. Separate zones for separate actions. Work only at your desk. Sleep only in your bed. Train only in your gym area. Clarity breeds consistency. 4. Use visual triggers. Set cues in your line of sight, a journal on your pillow, a checklist on your wall, a glass of water by your bedside. Let your space remind you. 5. Reset daily. Every evening, reset your environment for tomorrow's success. Prepare your clothes, set up your workspace, align your tools. Tomorrow's discipline begins tonight. The 80% versus the 20%. The 80% live reactively, their environment controls them. The 20% live proactively, they control their environment. And because of this, discipline feels impossible for the majority and automatic for the minority. Macro-micro environment design. At the macro level, your environment determines your trajectory. At the micro level, it's just one space, one trigger, one tool aligned with your purpose. Change one small detail of your environment, and you change decades of results. The breakthrough truth. Discipline is not just about inner strength, it's about outer structure. If your environment is coded for distraction, even the strongest willpower will fail. If your environment is coded for discipline, even the weakest willpower will succeed. Stop asking yourself to fight harder. Start asking yourself to design smarter. Your next step. From today forward, stop tolerating spaces that sabotage you. Stop living in environments coded for drift. Stop expecting discipline to survive in hostile surroundings. Instead, build your world as an ally. Design frictionless pathways to your habits. Erase triggers of distraction. Create spaces that breathe focus and persistence. Because when your environment runs the code, your discipline is no longer fragile, it's enforced. And when discipline is enforced, results are guaranteed. Discipline alone is powerful. Habits alone are transformative. Environment alone can reshape your behavior. Accountability alone can close your escape routes. But the real breakthrough comes when you stop treating these forces separately and start merging them into a single system. This is the core code fully integrated, a code so tight that failure has no oxygen, excuses have no space, and results have no choice but to appear. The fragmented approach of the 80%. Most people dabble with one piece but ignore the others. They try discipline without environment, and they collapse under distraction. They try habits without accountability, and they drift when no one is watching. They try environment without persistence, and they quit when adversity strikes. Their code is incomplete. And because of this, their results are inconsistent. The integrated system of the 20%. The successful minority know that the core code must function like a machine, every part reinforcing the others. Discipline births habits. Habits are enforced by environment. Environment is reinforced by accountability. Accountability fuels persistence. The cycle becomes self-sustaining. No single force has to carry all the weight. The system carries itself. This is why their results look inevitable, because their code is complete. Napoleon Hill's parallel. Hill wrote extensively about synergy. When a group of individual brains are coordinated and function in harmony, the increased energy created through that alliance becomes available to every individual brain in the group. Apply this not only to people but to forces. When discipline, habits, environment, and accountability function in harmony, the increased energy makes success unavoidable. How integration works. 1. Discipline habits. Discipline forces the first action. You do it repeatedly until it hardens into habit. 2. Habits environment. Habits influence the way you design your surroundings. When you write daily, you set up a space for writing. When you train daily, you keep your gear ready. Habits shape environment. 3. Environment accountability. A structured environment makes your progress visible. Visible progress invites accountability. Others can see your streaks, your routines, your results. 4. Accountability discipline. Knowing others are watching forces you to act even when you don't feel like it. Accountability drives discipline, completing the cycle. The loop is closed. Each element strengthens the next. The 80% versus the 20% revisited. The 80% live fractured lives. Their discipline collapses because habits aren't formed. Their habits fade because their environment works against them. Their environment weakens because they have no accountability. The 20% live integrated lives. Every choice, every space, every ally, every action points in the same direction. Their core code is a fortress. Macro-micro integration. At the macro level, integration creates inevitability. Once the code is complete, success is no longer in question. At the micro level, integration looks simple. Put your workout gear where you can see it. Commit to a training partner who expects you to show up. Track your workouts in a journal. Repeat daily until it becomes reflex. One small act touches all four forces at once: discipline, habit, environment, accountability. That's integration in practice. The breakthrough belief. Stop thinking in fragments. Stop trying to fix your life with one tool while ignoring the others. Stop believing success can be built on partial codes. Start building a system where every piece reinforces the others. Start creating loops that feed themselves. Start integrating until quitting feels unnatural and winning feels automatic. Your next step. From this moment forward, declare, I don't just practice discipline. I install systems. I don't just form habits. I enforce them with environment and accountability. I don't just design spaces. I link them to purpose. I don't just rely on others. I create alliances that amplify my persistence. Because when you integrate discipline, habits, environment, and accountability, you no longer fight uphill. The slope tilts in your favor. Success accelerates. Results compound. And once the core code is fully integrated, results are not only predictable, they are permanent. You've reached the end of this journey. And now you see the truth that most people will never understand: results are not random. Results are coded. The core code is no longer a mystery. You've seen every layer. Discipline as the root. Habits as the automation. Environment as the enforcer. Accountability as the amplifier. Persistence as the engine. Feedback as the proof. Integration as the fortress. Put these together, and you no longer hope for results, you guarantee them. Why most people fail. Look around you. You'll see the same story repeated again and again. People quit because they rely on motivation, not discipline. People drift because they build intentions, not habits. People collapse because their environment sabotages them. People excuse themselves because they hide from accountability. People lose because they sprint for speed instead of enduring for persistence. The tragedy is not that they lacked potential, it's that they never installed the code. Why you will succeed. But you are not like most people. Because you've seen the core code, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. You now know. Discipline is the first lever. You act because you said you would, not because you feel like it. Habits are the automation. You repeat until it becomes reflex. Environment is the silent ally. You design spaces that force discipline. Accountability is the pressure. You declare publicly so quitting becomes unthinkable. Persistence is the engine. You outlast obstacles until they collapse. Feedback is the reinforcement. You track evidence until your identity believes it. Integration is the lock. Once combined, the system is unbreakable. This is why your results are no longer fragile. They are inevitable. Napoleon Hill's final reminder. Hill said, "You are where you are because of your established habits. You may change where you are by changing your habits." That is the essence of the core code. You are not trapped. You are programmable. Your life is not fixed, it is coded. And when you install the right code, you install the future you desire. Your identity rewritten. From today forward, you stop identifying as someone who struggles. You stop calling yourself undisciplined. You stop excusing yourself with, "That's just who I am." Because who you are is not fixed. Who you are is coded by discipline and habits. Who you are is rewritten every day by the actions you repeat. And now, you are the person who installs the core code. You are the one who acts daily, who builds habits deliberately, who designs environments intentionally, who embraces accountability, who persists until results appear, who tracks proof, who integrates everything into one unstoppable system. This is your new identity. This is the core code in motion. The vision ahead. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. Imagine the compound force of discipline that never faltered, habits that never broke, environments that enforced success, accountability that crushed excuses, persistence that carried you through storms. What would your wealth look like? What would your health look like? What would your relationships, your influence, your impact look like? This is not fantasy. This is inevitability if you keep running the code. Your final step today. Stop waiting. Stop drifting. Stop excusing. Start installing. Start enforcing. Start persisting. Because the core code doesn't just guarantee results, it guarantees transformation. And once installed, it doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you are. Closing call to action. Now it's your turn. Fire comment below. Which part of the core code are you installing first? Discipline, habits, environment, or accountability? Speech balloon, share your answer. Declaring it makes it real. Declaring it inspires others. If this message spoke to you, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who's been drifting too long. Because most people fail. But you won't. You've seen the core code. You've embraced the core code. You've installed the core code. And from this moment forward, your results are no longer a question of if. They are only a question of when.